Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. It is a beautiful Sunday. Why? Because it is Easter Sunday. I feel like preaching, but let me just hold myself because, well, it is something to celebrate. But, how best to celebrate your Easter by watching and listening to a program like this on Democracy and the Rule of Law. I mean, sometimes it is tiring, but it is well. It is well, and that's the only thing I can say. Let's just quickly take a look at what we're going to be talking about today. The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE, has charged the National Assembly to desist from implementing the proposed bill of delisting the local government as third tier of government. While speaking to the pressmen at the state headquarters on Thursday, the national president of the association, Ambali Olatunji, stressed that the group would embark on a nationwide strike and shut down all activities of 774 local governments if the proposed bill is not immediately terminated. Still on Democracy and the Rule of Law, the National Association of Resident Doctors has raised alarm that it is being threatened by some government agency to call off the ongoing strike. And on the flip side, the President Muhammadu Buhari has been sued over his failure to probe allegations that 3.8 billion naira of public funds meant for the Federal Ministry of Health, teaching hospitals, medical centers, and National Drug Law Administration and Control are missing, mismanaged, diverted, or stolen, as documented in the recently released 218 audited report by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. We're going to be taking a look at all that, of course, with the controversy of the President Muhammadu Buhari's health trip. Then finally on the news, the Federal High Court in Lagos has banned the federal government from blocking SIM cards not linked to national identity numbers next month. The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, the Food and Nigerian Communications Commission, asked operators to block all SIM cards not linked to NIN by April 6, 2021. Of course, that has been extended by 4 weeks. The latest controversy of that is what Issa Pantami, Minister of Communication and Digital Economy said on the NIN SIM linkage. We'll be listening to that when the time is right. Now, this is what we're going to be talking about on Democracy and the Rule of Law on Galaxy Television. I'm Solomon Offem. You're welcome to the show. We'll be right back after this very, very short break. Stay with us. Okay, if you're just tuning in, this is Democracy and the Rule of Law on Galaxy Television, and I'm Solomon Offem. I have a barrister, Kingsley Chime, in the house today talking to us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon.
You really look like Easter today.
Decked
in white and white cap.
Happy Easter celebration.
Thank you. And of course, I have a barrister, Elvis Asia, also a legal practitioner, joining us today on Democracy and the Rule of Law. Thank you so much for your time.
Happy Easter, viewers.
Okay, let's quickly take a look at the first topic for discussion, where the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE, has charged the National Assembly to desist from implementing the proposed bill of listing the local government as third tier of government. Let's listen and watch how it's played out.
Go to the House of Assembly and let them know we say no to the listing of local government from the Constitution. After that, there will be a national protest in Abuja, where all Nigerians will converge on National Assembly. Let our rep come and tell us who give them that mandate to go and kill local government. The local government that has been exiled before they were born. We are having the issue of Boko Haram. We are not legislating on that. We have issues of a variety parts of life. Nobody is legislating. And again, in the past, local government directly employ youth. But now all this has been like that because money meant for this. It's not that the money is not enough. It's not that the money was not allocated. But somebody decided to steal the money completely. There's a committee called Joint Account Allocation Committee. When the money hit that account, somebody somewhere will now decide, your money is 100 naira, I will give you 10 naira. And with 10 naira, you cannot be able to do anything, any meaningful project at the local government level. We are waiting forever.
Okay, that's the National Union of Local Government Employers, NULGE, threatening to go on strike and, of course, protest if the listing of local government as a third tier of government is implemented. Now, this National Assembly have come with lots of controversy, especially at this period of time where a lot is going on right now, especially in economy and security, but they keep bringing up, proposing controversial bill. You know, some weeks ago, there was a report of them talking about bleaching cream, how to regulate bleaching cream. These are just some of the ridiculous bills, you know, that the National Assembly have trying to, instead of focusing on some of the issues that are affecting this country right now. Let me have your view on that.
Yes, all right. Thank you so much, Solomon. I think I wouldn't want to, you know, judge issues with the kind of nature of legislation that is being thrown up every now and then by the House of Representatives. However, my concern actually is on the threat being issued by the NULGE that the National Assembly or the House of Representatives should decide for abolishing or delisting local government system in Nigeria. While I believe that National Assembly has the legislative competence to make laws for the good governance of this country, and it is within the constitutional right of members of the House to make good laws for the citizens. However, I'm a bit concerned with the threat being issued by NULGE, because before now, local government administration in Nigeria had always been pauperized by both the federal and state government. You know, of course, in theory, local government is counted as one of the tiers of government, but in practice, it is almost non-existent because both the state and federal government continue to feast on the allocation of the local government, thereby rendering that tier of government almost useless. So I think the NULGE should preoccupy their minds with, you know, ensuring that monies be allocated for local government are properly utilized. And if in the wisdom of the National Assembly they decide that local government, you know, has overstayed its welcome, because in the true sense of it, you know, state governors indirectly are the ones managing the affairs of local government across Nigeria, down to election. And the problem is actually not from the state or federal government. Our legal framework that created local government is a bit faulty. Yeah, it's a bit faulty in a way that it created local government but gave the power to the state legislatures to make laws for local government. And also the state joint local government account system also is a way to continue to, you know, emasculate the local government system in Nigeria. So we are talking about cutting cost of governance. What has local government over the years done? Of course, under Section 7, Sub 1 and 5, that guaranteed local government, democratically elected local government council, you know, it has actually failed to provide some of the functions and give them the autonomy, the fiscal autonomy upon which to operate. So if the state government is the one directly, you know, managing the affairs of local government down to election, there's no constitutional provision as to the tenure of a local government council elected under the law. So the state governors decide in their wisdom to use this tier of government at their own whims and caprices. So for me, if in the wisdom of the National Assembly, they feel that the local government, the purpose for which it was created is no longer being served, I think it's important they scrap it.
So
those who are...
So you support the scrapping of local government in your own view, your personal view?
Yeah, because of the way the management of local government administration has been over the years.
Okay.
I feel if it is in the interest of the people, that it should be scrapped. Let it be scrapped.
Okay, I have a question for you, but let's hear his view first.
This is quite an interesting issue because I remember in 2012, I actually filed an action in court seeking to prevent the state government from emasculating the government system in the state. Because just like my other friend said, what is happening currently is that the state houses of assembly will make laws which will define the tenure, the way and manner elections are held by local government, and in doing so they will typically give unreasonable powers to the governors, who, as we speak, have pretty much pocketed the local government system. It's even beyond corruption. It's almost like it's a private estate for the governors now. And they have so many reasons to do that. They are political expediency. Because if you have a functional local government system, you are likely to have a more democratic system at the state level. Because at the end of the day, you're going to have a vibrant local government system. For someone who, like me, grew up in the village, in a very typical village, growing up in the village, I could see the impact of the government system.
Yeah, exactly.
My roads were being graded on a yearly basis. The last time I visited my village to bury my father, I could barely access the place. So why I'm saying this is that the problem is not really that the government system has failed. I think what has failed is the political system, is the governors across the country, who for pecuniary and political interest have emasculated and pocketed the government system. And I do not think that the solution to that would be to do exactly what they want to do, which is to give them the leverage, to edge out the government system completely. I think that we're playing to their hands. What they really want is a situation where, you see, local government system is the only system that's actually supposed to be closer to the people. And like I said, I have seen the effect of the government system. I've seen how it worked. In 1999, between 1999, the first second term of the Obasanjo years and all of that, the government system was very functional. I recall then that Argon, the Association of Local Government Chairmen, were very powerful. They could, make decisions on policy. They could make declarations of policy. They could even, negotiate with government. So it was very functional. It was later on that this whole thing started when the governors saw the political expediency of pocketing the government system and pocketing the funds. So I do not think that the approach, the solution to this, is to really completely write off the government system from the constitution. Because what you'll be doing is to really play into the hands of the governors. What we should do is to strengthen the local government system. The functions of the government are clearly defined by the constitution. Markets, cleaning and all of that. I recall again when I was growing up in my village that we used to have sanitary inspectors from the local government system coming around to check toilets, ensure that the villages are clean. These were, the functions of the local government system. So, and it is actually the local tier of government that is actually close to the people. So, what we need to do is to strengthen the constitutional framework for the government system, rather than, deleting the government completely. I think this is for me is the wrong approach.
I think you've even answered the question I thought of answering him, because for a state like, say, Lagos, it is difficult for you to see the impact of local governments because it is a metropolitan state, as it were. But when you go to like states, let's use my state for example, where there's a clear demarcation between the cities, the urban and the rural areas, that's where you would know the impact of local government. And some of the major impacts on local government is like the local government employers, because the federal government can employ everybody, the state government can employ everybody, the local government have their employers, and let's not talk about the community schools. that are there, that are managed by the
even
local government.
even in urban centers, you can still feel the impact of local government. I mean, we have in Lagos here, for example, one of the challenges we have when the rains come, you see that most of the roads are no longer motorable. The patching of roads, for example, these are things that were done by local governments. I mean, inner roads, streets and all of that, to ensure that people can move around. So the impact of the government can be felt, even in urban centers, even in metropolitan cities like Lagos. What has happened is that the local government system has been pocketed. In Lagos, you can trace the history of the rather strange system operating now to the Tinubu years, when the federal government seized the funds of the local government system, and then the governor now, because of that, had to practically take over the running of the affairs of the government. And from that, they probably learned one or two things, and which is what I've been practicing. The funding for the government is shared. And I happen to know the government chairman who told me in confidence then, and look, I was asking him, I said, look, why come we don't see anything in my local government? Nothing's happening, because I told you I'm a village boy, and I used to see what local government could do. What is happening? And the guy would tell me, look, once this money comes, if it's 100 naira, just like somebody was saying during that video, that they will take 90 and give them 10 naira and say, look, we cannot employ that. Then the moment they elect a few people, councillors, local government chairman and all of that, within a year or two, they dissolve again, appoint the technical committee. The technical committee are only answerable to the governor. So we shouldn't play into the hands of the governors. The local government system still has a role to play in the system. We must ensure that we do not allow the governors to continue to perpetrate what they're doing at local government level.
Okay, and let's get back to it now. We understand that it's terribly bad right now, especially for the local government. But just like he said, strengthening that law and making the law, because I know local government for a while have been fighting for autonomy, and we thought probably the Senate or the National Assembly would look into that, but scrubbing it all together.
Well, let me reiterate my point. I'm not undermining the policy importance of local government administration in Nigeria. I'm not saying the idea behind local government is not well founded, but given the fact that it appears that the state government has emasculated local government, and it appears they are non-existent. Why do we continue to run them? Because while you run them, you have the executive members, which of course must go through election, even though we all know that it is by appointment or as it suits the governor. So why are we duplicating effort? We can still streamline all of this to fall under state or federal government. Since the state governor is still the one running the affairs of local government, why do you have to duplicate effort and continue to run a very high cost of governance? That is my point. But if the National Assembly feels that, and I believe in the past attempts have been made to see how to make local government functional again, but it continues to go the way it is. And I mentioned that the legal framework upon which local government administration is predicated is faulty. You cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. So if we must get it right, we must have a good legal framework, because election of local government council is in the hands of state electoral commission, which is being appointed by the state governor. What does that tell you? That anybody the governor wants to be the chairman is automatically going to be the chairman. In all the states across the federation, it is like a given that wherever the political party that produces the governor will automatically, sideline the local government election. So why are we trying to, make things difficult for ourselves?
So how will scrapping of local government reduce governance?
It will reduce the cost. Yeah, because local government, or ideally, have their federal allocation that ordinarily should go to local government. The cost of doing election and the political appointees and all of that, the councillors and all of that, they will be phased out. We now know that it is between the state and federal government, so that the state governor will be the one to deal with perhaps it could be by appointment. Now, it could be by appointment.
Some people,
since they are one and the same.
Some persons may say that the federal government in Nigeria, by the virtue of the system, is already very, very strong. And the part of the advocation for restructuring is reduce the burden of the federal government, let them concentrate on major things like security, for example, and let the state government take most of the burden. That will defeat the purpose, because we're afraid that the state government are having too much power. You now scrap the local government, the federal government becomes even much more powerful, because you've clipped some of the wind, as it were.
Exactly. I agree with you, and there are 2 points I wish to say in response to my other friend. The first one is that the legal framework for the existing legal system, yes, there's always room for improvement, but I don't think the problem is the legal framework. I think it's the greediness of the political players in the country that's responsible for what the legal system is. Section 7 guarantees a democratically elected government. Now, you cannot make law at the state level to determine the tenure, how you run the elections, but it has to be democratic. The caretaker system that is being run now is unconstitutional. Even the Supreme Court has declared so. In 2016, on a case that arose from Ekiti State, where Kayode Fayemi at that time, appointed caretaker committees and dissolved the government council. The case went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court clearly stated, very clearly, that it's unconstitutional to run the government system with caretaker committees. So there is already a legal framework that ensures that the local government must be operated in a democratic setting. What we have had in the past is unconstitutional, is an aberration by governors. The governors are exercising power they do not have. The houses of assemblies are exercising power they do not have. And the solution cannot be to give in. Because, just like you said, we're talking about devolution of powers. How best do you devolve powers other than using the government system? And I don't think there's any serious country in the world where you don't have a council kind of system, a local government system, that is close to people, where people can easily. And if you look at the bill that they are really talking about, they are not seeking to eliminate local government completely. What they are simply saying is to take everything and put it on the jurisdiction of the states, so that they can continue to perpetuate what they are doing now. That's what. So it's not going to reduce costs, because at the end of the day, you're still going to have the local government system. The other thing you're not going to have is that you have the constitutional, force. The constitutional force on them to act in a certain way as declared by the Supreme Court.
So in other words, the funds will still be for the state.
Exactly.
It's just that
so they just want a constitutional endorsement of the stealing that is going on at the government level. They want a constitutional endorsement of the political rascality that's going on at the government level. And I don't think we should encourage them. I think the National Assembly is very wrong on this. What they should do is to remove. In fact, I was expecting them to give complete autonomy to the government system. Ensure, for example, that.
But that was the fight for.
Yes, that's what we should be expecting. I was expecting that, for example, we ensure that the government system elections are conducted just like you have conducted election for the federal houses, the states. You should do the same thing, and next you do the same thing for local governments. Because you are saying the entire government, it should be federally organized. I was expecting that. I was expecting a situation where you can remove that provision of the constitution that says the state house of assembly should be making laws for the run of the local government. I was expecting that you should have clear provision of the constitution, on tenure of chairmen, tenure of councillors. We need local government system. I said this because, like I said, as somebody who grew up in the village, growing up, the government we let you the local government chairman, we let you the councillors. And they were effective, at least by the standard and the resources.
A lot of villages don't even know who the governor is.
Nobody knows. So when I was growing up as a child, I remember I can mention somebody, for example, Honorable Sufu in my state then. When I was growing up, he was the government chairman. If I tell you a lot of the things that he brought to my village, it's unimaginable. Even governors cannot do it. He was able to do that in 1999, between 1999 and 2003. He brought power to my village, brought water, fixed the schools, the roads were always graded, and this wasn't just my village, it was happening everywhere else. He had this, farm, that was almost the best in the corners at the time. He sponsored people to Nigerians from local government who competed in football abroad. These were funds that were available in 1999.
But it's no longer like that.
Because the governments have stolen it. They have stolen it, and we should not allow them to continue to steal it. The National Assembly should come down on them, change the constitution. Of course, why we are having this challenge is that who is sponsoring the bill? I hear it's from somebody from Rivers State, right? And this is not the first time they are attempting this. In 2018, there was also an attempt that was made by somebody from, I think, Plateau. You know, the governors are the ones engineering this. The governors want to have a free ride. The only thing that's holding them is Section 7, such as the one of the Constitution, which says that you must ensure a democratic and elected local government system. And the Supreme Court has pronounced on it. They want to remove that completely. I don't think we should allow that to happen.
Okay, any last statement?
No,
as we round up this
even without the policy in place, the governors are in charge.
They're having a field day.
They are having a few days. So if they are not saying, okay, we are already stealing, why not give us the entire thing to manage? Because you cannot continue to have it the way it is. I'm still advocate that local government system should remain. I agree that local government is a good idea, but instead of the local government to continue to run the way it is presently, I will advocate that it should be abolished.
Okay.